get to Leigh's as quick as we can. You thought I was going to go sideways then, didn't you? Good to see you again, mate.
Oh, fella. So that was pretty good, wasn't it? Tape measure. Yeah.
You know this is only a ropey drift car, don't you?
Yeah, proper cool pair of Escorts.
Just dripping with retro Ford parts.
Yeah, skint now.
You've been here before.
Not happy about it.
Check out this barbecue that Leigh built himself. Man of many talents. Chef as well.
Oh my days. Look at this feast.
The engine bay is looking a whole lot better now. One more thing I've done on this car today, round the back. Hello and welcome to this video. I'm Marcus Hayes and today I've got another really busy day planned. It's now 9:15 in the morning and I'm currently heading over to the garage where I store Esther, my SD170 powered Mk1 Escort, and I'm going to be removing the front centre section of her exhaust and her exhaust manifold, and I'm going to be taking those bits back up to see my friend Leigh Booth, who is going to be welding another flexi into that front centre section, and I'm going to ask him to trim a little bit off of the manifold as well, just so that I can get that centre section of the exhaust tucked up closer to the floor, so that hopefully we don't destroy this flexi like we did with the last one. I'm actually going to be driving up to Leigh's in Maude, my Mk2 Escort, and there's something he's very kindly said he's going to do on that car for me as well. So yeah, really looking forward to catching back up with Leigh. I've actually got a surprise birthday party to go to this evening as well. It's Brian, who's been on the channel before. It's his 40th. So time is tight today and it's going to be a bit of a struggle to squeeze everything in, but I like to live a busy, hectic life. A busy Marcus is a happy Marcus, so yeah, let's crack on. Once Esther was jacked up, I was able to disconnect the exhaust mount and the clamps, and then after a bit of tapping, I was able to remove the centre section of the exhaust system. Before I could remove the exhaust manifold, I needed to move the strut brace out of the way and the water rail, but then it was just a case of undoing the manifold nuts and pulling the manifold out of the engine bay. Alright, fast forward a little bit and we've now jumped in Maude, the moredoor, and we're on our way to Leigh's place. The exhaust manifold was a bit of hassle to remove, but not too bad. I've got that in the back with the front centre section of her exhaust, and I've also got the strut brace that Leigh gave to me a while ago, and he's going to weld that onto this thing for me today as well. So yeah, let's get to Leigh's as quick as we can. You thought I was going to go sideways then, didn't you? How wrong you were. All right, we have made it to Leigh's place. Good to see you again, mate.
Oh, fella.
Thank you for gracing Maude with your skills.
No problem, mate.
Job number one is to fit this strut brace that Leigh actually gave me. And this one, unlike Esther's one, has weld-on brackets rather than bolt-on. So essentially, these brackets need to be welded on roughly there and one the other side. And then this strut brace can be bolted across, and that should stiffen up the front end of Maude and yeah, hopefully make her handle a bit better. I have already disconnected this earth wire from the body because when you're welding, you want to protect your battery and the loom and stuff from the high current of the welder, and that would have been in Leigh's way a little bit. And while we're at it, we'll give this a bit of a clean so it's actually a better earth point. Could just cable tie them on if it's easier.
That was pretty good, wasn't it?
Yeah, as you can see, Leigh's put like a step in these so that they can sit around the RS top plates. Very clever. You've done this sort of thing before, have you?
Yeah, a bit. A little bit.
So yeah, he's gonna
try.
Bolt the strut brace on now so that put the brackets in the right place. Yeah, so the breather pipes for the bike carbs are in the way, but that's not an issue at all. Thankfully, the throttle cable is okay. I thought I might have to bend this bracket, but yeah, that's all sweet. Guys, the question is, should I advertise Motorsport Tools on this car? If any of the Motorsport Tools executives are watching, please let me have a go in one of your brand new Escorts. Tape measure? Yeah, proper job. You know this is only a ropey drift car, don't you?
That's alright.
And out comes the trusty green pen. Alright, so the strut brace is now in position and ready to be tack welded on. And Leigh's just gone to grab his welder and stuff. And while he does that, I'll give you a quick look at his two beasts. Now, I have made a couple of videos here with Leigh before, so if you haven't seen them, definitely go back and watch them for a more detailed look at these two Escorts and a Zetec Turbo kit car that he's got. But yeah, this is his ST170 powered Maude Mk2 Escort. Definitely looks a lot smarter than mine, and the engine spec is actually very similar to my Mk1 Escort. It's got a fuel injected ST170 on throttle bodies, and yeah, really racy spec throughout. Bucket seats, roll cage, aftermarket steering wheel, you know the drill. And it looks really cool in the imperial blue paint as well. But next to that is his bubble arched Mk1, which has got a COSI YB lump in it. And I was lucky to go for a passenger ride in this when I came down to visit Leigh before. It's definitely an experience. And again, this one's a very racy spec. In fact, Leigh was saying that he thinks that this was actually built to be a bit of a rally car by the previous owner. So yeah, proper cool pair of Escorts. Leigh is ready to weld this thing on. Once Leigh had tack welded the brackets on, he then set about fully welding them in place. It was clear that eventually the strut brace was going to get in his way, so we removed it, and then Leigh continued to stack dimes until the brackets were fully welded on. Just check out those tidy TIG welds. Next, we refitted the strut brace, and then I set about cleaning up the earth point, and then I bolted it back onto the inner wing. Sweet. And there it is. Maude's strut brace is all fitted. Thank you very much, sir. I suppose the question is now, does the bonnet shut? Seeing as this isn't a stock bonnet, Leigh just said he's wondering if this is going to clear. Only one way to find out. Yeah, look, see? No problem. Lovely. Another thing we're wondering is if the spark plug cover is going to fit with this brace on. To be honest, on this car, I'm not bothered if it doesn't. Yeah, but it's here though, and it's more forward. So if anything, it'll foul on this bit. Great excuse to get a nosy at the ST170 setup in Leigh's model. This is a proper setup. Just dripping with retro Ford parts.
Yeah, skint now. Wife nearly left me. Twice.
Right, so next job. Bit of deja vu for you, mate. You've been here before.
Yeah, I'm not happy about this.
Done a lovely job welding this flexi onto Esther's exhaust, and yeah, it's a bit worn.
It's too flexible now.
Flexi number 2. Now I did actually bring the manifold with me as well, because I thought that if Leigh was to cut a little bit off of this, it might make that bit basically sit a little bit closer to the floor to prevent us ruining the flexi in future. But what I realised today, I've marked it there, that was where the other pipe came up to, and you know, the sort of wide bit on that pipe is longer than this section, so it should come up further anyway, so cutting a bit off of this isn't going to help that. So yeah, as you can see, the wider bit that slips around, you know, is like this long. So in theory, that manifold should slide down more. But it might be to do with like the angle of, you know, this versus the manifold going down. I did need to remove the manifold anyway because I'm pretty sure that the gasket where it meets the cylinder head was leaking. I don't know if maybe I should like try and sand the outside of this pipe a bit, and maybe even chuck, you know, a flap wheel down there a bit, just to take a couple of foul off, sort of, you know, increase the interference fit. And then maybe just use a load of lube and just see if when I refit all this, I can get this to slide over the manifold a bit more. But yeah, right now Leigh's going to repeat the job he did for me literally a couple of months ago, which I'm not going to bother filming. And we'll just see how it looks when he's done. I'm really sorry. And there it is, a new Flexi welded in. Actually wasn't as much of a mission as we were fearing. Yeah.
A lot easier.
No, thank you so much, man. I will try and look after this one, I promise. So just come into Leigh's back garden. Check out this barbecue that Leigh built himself. It was obviously started off as a gas bottle. This bit obviously opens up. Got to have a spanner as a handle, but just check out all the details, all these decorative bits around here. This sort of decorative handle. These hinges and stuff he made himself. They've been laser cut out. Yeah, got the gauges on there. Really cool wooden shelf. Got a stainless exhaust. And yeah, just look at the base as well. It's all been made out of this hammered box section, and then this really cool piece here with the holes. Yeah, just everywhere you look around it, it's just more and more details. Got taps here. I don't know whether that's to sort of drain the stuff out of it when you finish using it. But yeah, check out this proper custom made laser cut sign on it. Boothies. Leigh's surname is Booth. Same thing going on around here. Boothies grill. Yeah, this thing's awesome. All been finished in heat-proof paint. And when he first showed it to me, I just assumed it was one of those ones you can buy, but it's all been custom made by Leigh himself. And a lot of the sort of DIY barbecues you see people make, I mean, they're cool, but they don't have as much sort of decorative detail on them and stuff like this one has. I think Leigh should start making these to sell to people. Yeah, what do you reckon? Let us know in the comments. Do you want Leigh to build you one of these sick barbecues?
That's where you burn your wood. In
all right. Coals. And then this is like normal barbecue.
No, they're sort of hot.
Oh, the heat comes out of there into the barbecue.
Yeah, and it goes out the chimney.
Oh, right.
That's where like you smoke.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, right. It just shows how little I know about barbecues, man. And there it is, the barbecue in action. Man of many talents.
I'm a
chef as well.
Yeah, I'm a chef now.
Oh my days. Look at this feast. All right, unfortunately, we've got a dash because we've got to get to this surprise birthday party later. Thank you so much, mate. Sorry we've got to rush off. I've actually got a new back box to go on it, so hopefully it won't sound as ridiculous.
Brush.
The neighbours hate it. Yeah. All right, take it easy, mate. Thanks again, yeah?
Take care.
See ya. She kind of cut out, not far from Leigh's place, and then there was a strong smell of fuel. One of the HT leads didn't seem like it was on the spark plug properly. I had to sort of like poke the wire through so that the bit that attaches to the spark plug was not as deep in the HT lead, if that makes any sense. So hopefully that was it. All right, so we have made it home. Didn't have any more issues after that little hiccup, so I'm guessing it was just caused by that HT lead. I want to send another massive thanks out to Leigh for all his hard work today. Really, really appreciate it. Also, massive thanks to his missus, his brother, and his son for their hospitality, and apologies that we had to leave so quickly. Now, we are still on time to get to Brian's surprise birthday party, although I really do need to hurry up now and go and get ready. But I'm going to be continuing this video in a couple of days when I'm going to be fitting some more parts to this old banger. Hello, so it's been a good few days since I went to Leigh's place. I'm actually filming multiple videos at once at the moment. My life is manic, it's all over the place, but it's all good. And I've just been cracking on with quite a few little bits on Maude. Basically, I've been working off camera, but I wanted to get these bits done before I ended this video. It's nothing exciting, but let me bring you up to date. First of all, you'll see that the engine bay is looking a whole lot better now that I've got a proper oil catch can fitted. This was actually given to me by Leigh ages ago, and yeah, I've mounted it on this bracket that Leigh gave to me with it. I'm probably going to put riv nuts in the inner wing eventually, but for now I've just sort of screw and nutted it. I do need to add some Jubilee clips to the hoses here. I only had 2 and I've used one there where one of the pipes goes to the rocker cover and one down there where the other pipe goes to the original block breather, and I've still got the PCV valve there, but I've basically removed the insides, and then that means that the block can just breathe all the time rather than only at high revs, which is how they are originally. Yeah, I'll just use the PCV valve as a bit of an adapter basically. Yeah, that hose, instead of it coming up here how it was before, I've actually got it going over the bell housing, so just got to make sure that this never gets a kink in it. It's actually fine as it is now, and with the heat of the manifold that should sort of you know, set in that bend without kinking. So yeah, that looks really neat. Probably need to maybe get some sort of clip or something to hold these. But yeah, it's all looking really neat. You'll see that I've drilled a hole in the top of this. I like my oil catch cans to breathe, so eventually I'm going to add a little breather to the top of this, but for now I've just drilled a hole in it. And because this can is actually in 2 halves, I was able to undo this and then remove it and then drill the hole, so there's no fear of any swarf being inside there. And in fact, I wanted to clean it out before I used it anyway. And yeah, on the bottom of this there's just a little bung that's you know, done up and removed by hand to drain the oil out whenever it gets too full, and you've got the little sight tube there so you can keep an eye on it. So yeah, really happy with that. Another thing I've done in the engine bay is to paint these areas where Leigh did the welding the other day. I actually ran out of black paint, so that side isn't quite finished, but I did primer it first. But yeah, this side is fully black. I do need to have another little tidy up on these inner wings at some point, so you know, I've just done this bit locally just to stop that going rusty. And yeah, I need to chuck some paint down there at some point as well, you know, give it a bit of a grind first. So yeah, the engine bay is going to need another little paint job at some point. Okay, we're right under a flight path here. Excuse the noise. Leigh was actually telling me to have a look underneath here because the heat would have probably burnt away the underseal under there, but it wasn't actually that bad. But I did decide to just chuck a load of underseal in that area, both sides anyway, so all is good. Now, while the front wheels are off, I decided to have a look at these front wheel bearings. I recently replaced the steering arms on this car, which meant I had to undo this hub nut that's behind here, and I didn't have my torque wrench with me, so I kind of guessed how tight that hub nut needed to be. But I noticed, you know, before I took the wheels off, I gave them a wiggle and there was definitely some play in that bearing. So I basically took all this apart and I've nipped that nut up a little bit more and then put the split pin and stuff back in. So hopefully now there's no play on that bearing, and who knows, that might have been partly why I'm getting, you know, loads of vibration through the steering and stuff. Although, as I've mentioned, I do think that I've got some play in my steering rack. One more thing I've done on this car today, round the back, and it's something that I think my neighbours are going to thank me for, and that is I've fitted this Ashley back box that was given to me by Gareth in Northern Ireland at the Summit show. Massive, massive thanks again to you. Now, I thought I was going to have to refit my 2¼ inch centre section to the exhaust, which I've actually got over here. It's actually a bit mullered. Basically, this end sort of rusted off, and then I just had to sort of extend these slots. And basically, with that fitted, it means that the back box ends up being too far forward, and then it ends up sort of hitting on the handbrake bar there before I sort of put a bend in the handbrake bar. You know, it's an utter bodge. But as it turned out, this back box that Gareth gave me was to suit a 2-inch system. So it meant that I could leave the 2-inch centre section that I fitted when I've tried to fit a used back box and centre section. That back box, which is over here, is actually really bad. So like the one that I removed before, that isn't doing any silencing. But yeah, I've already started the engine with this back box fitted and it sounds a whole lot quieter. You know, still a nice noise, but not the racket that it had before. So yeah, way less obnoxious, but yeah, still a nice noise. Alright, so before I end this video, I thought I'd get this thing out on the road so that we can properly hear how the exhaust sounds now, and it is so much less obnoxious. It seems like ridiculously quiet because I'm so used to how obnoxious it was before. But yeah, it is much better. You know, it was ridiculous before. I know my neighbours didn't appreciate it. And you can hear the bike carbs more now. The tone actually reminds me of when we went to see Jonathan with his red moredoor Mk2 Escort, because that's of course on bike carbs as well. And yeah, bike carbs don't sound nowhere near as good as side draft Webers, and yeah, you can actually hear the bike carbs now because the noise isn't all exhaust. Now unfortunately there's quite a lot of traffic on the road where I am at the moment, at least. I'm hoping it will clear up at some point so that I can at least get a couple of pulls so we can hear what it sounds like properly. Get a cheeky little one here. So yeah, really tame compared to how it was before. The popping and banging on the overrun is way less as well. It still does do it a bit. It's nice to be able to hear induction for once. Yeah, I actually haven't got the mount hooked up, the one that's just in front of the rear axle, because the mount on the gearbox doesn't line up with the mount that I use on this car, which is actually the thread for a rear seat belt, I think it is, and I've got a hook screwed into that. Well, it's a seat belt eye that I've cut a bit out of to turn it into a hook. The mount on this gearbox actually lines up where the original mount was on this car, and that is where the rear anti-roll bar used to mount to the chassis, although this car doesn't have a rear anti-roll bar anymore. I think that's actually the front leaf spring mount as well. Yeah, so the mount on the gearbox lines up with that, so I do need to figure out some sort of extra mount. You can get sort of bolt-on mounts, and I'm pretty sure I've got one of them on the 2¼ inch back box that I took off this car. So yeah, because it's like a bolt-on mount, you can slide it, you know, where you want. So yeah, but to be fair, even though I haven't got that mount hooked up, the exhaust isn't banging anywhere. So yeah, all's good so far. Alright, so I don't think I'm going to get much of a chance to go for an extended blast. There's far too many cars on the road, and the M25 is absolutely chock-a-block, so there's no point going on there. But I'm sure you get a sense of how much more quiet this exhaust is now, and yeah, I'm definitely happy that I finally got a back box that's actually doing something. Got to send another massive thanks out to Gareth for giving me this back box. Really, really appreciate it. And of course, got to send a massive thanks out to Leigh for gracing this car and Esther with your welding talents. Yeah, Leigh's been really, really helpful, you know, not only doing welding for me, but giving me parts and that, and it's all really, really appreciated. Thank you so much, mate. So that's all I've got for this video, but I'll be back for another video very soon. Behind the scenes, I'm getting Esther ready to put back together. She has been a bit neglected, but yeah, I'm hoping to take her to an event in a couple of days fingers crossed that actually happens. But either way, I'll be back very soon for another video. If you did think this one was any good, please do give it a thumbs up and a share. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Click subscribe if you're new. Check out my website for merch and parts. Feel free to follow me on Facebook, TikTok and Instagram. Massive thanks to my patrons for your ongoing support. I'll leave the links to everything in the description along with my email address for anyone who wants to contact me. But other than that, until next time, thanks for watching.